Welcome, Bullet fans. It's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. Time for Outlawed Live. I am Ron Stone here with my distinguished co-host, Mike Idle. Mike, say something inspiring to the folks.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? That's the first time that the adjective distinguished has ever been used in front of my name. So I'm climbing the ladder there in the opinion of Ron Stone. But no, looking forward to it. Should be another good show. First time we've had the full band back together on the show in a little bit. We've been busy. You know, I've been getting busy with school. You've been getting busy with pulling. Man, what a time you had down in Florida. Give me the quick, hot, and dirty on what that was like. There's a lot we can discuss just based on, you know, some of the things that you had in your experience down there.
Yeah, it's a tough job sometimes, Mike, but somebody's got to do it. You know, you got the Southern Swing with the NTPA, of course, Full Pull Live was there with the broadcast crew announcing the show at Zellwood Friday and Saturday, and then Satsuma this past Friday and Saturday there. Pretty awesome couple of weeks. Those shows, of course, we had Cletus McFarland there this past Friday night, which was really cool. Really fun. Good weather for the most part. Really good crowds down there in Florida. So good to see pulling making a resurgence in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, I like to see that. And if nothing else, I'm a big fan of the fact that we have meaningful point series pulling going on in any association out there in the month of March. You know, for me, there was a lot to be stirred up on the internet this week, and I'm going to take associations away from it, and I'm just going to speak as a pulling fan. Of course, we can speak pretty openly about, you know, our affiliation with, you know, our friends at NTPA now. So, of course, wishing them the best and hope everything goes well. But, you know, not even looking at it from that spectrum. A lot of big opinions, but I saw good quality, meaningful pulling happening in March. I'm never going to be anything other than positive about that. There were growing pains the very first night of the Southern Swing. But, Ron, we've been there. I know we've been at Ravenna before, getting ready to open the season with the Outlaws, and sound equipment isn't behaving 5 minutes before the show, or weather's not behaving. So, you know, there's always a growing pain with that first show. I thought what I watched after that was really good quality tractor pulling. And, of course, Cletus McFarland, I had to do some homework, figure out who this guy really was. And there were big opinions on all over the internet. His video, have you had a chance to see his YouTube, kind of his whole production of everything from his point of view? Did you watch that?
I did. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was pretty long, and I haven't had a whole lot of time. I'm still on the road. I'm actually in Tupelo, Mississippi right now at a truck stop doing the show here. But honestly, I hadn't seen a whole lot of his shows, his YouTube channel and such. I had seen a couple where he had like secretly modified his wife's Cadillac SUV without her knowing a couple of times. But hadn't seen much more than that. I'd heard some stuff about NASCAR and the Truck Series, and some people giving him a pretty hard time for, you know, not earning his way in or not paying his way in or whatever. But he was pretty cool to hang out with there, and definitely had a fan base in Satsuma because when he came out on the track, people were cheering. So the Florida fans knew. Now, talk about Florida fans here. They haven't had a lot of pulling. Pulling under their belt. We were at a racetrack in Satsuma, the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park, which is a racetrack, a dirt oval. And both nights, the fans were lined up at the beginning of turn 1, which is the starting line. And Mike, you and I know the most optimal seats are between 200 and 300 feet there, so you can catch the end of the run. We tried to clue the fans in on it. You know, on Saturday night, they still filled in there at the starting line, but we kept telling them, hey, the best seats are down here. And it got pretty full, so they filled those seats in anyway. But it was good to get some pulling down there, some good Grand National pulling. And the fans were great. They had a great time. And you know as well as I do, when the fans are making noise and having fun, it's a much more fun show for the announcer.
That's the best thing to be a part of. And I really enjoyed Cletus's his raw reaction in some of his videos, and even some of the interviews I could see on Full Pull Live that you were doing with him. The way, and this is everyone's reaction, changing their perception of what a tractor pull is, and his just enthusiasm. It reminded me of first time I went to a pull, just overwhelmed with how much fun it was. And the other big thing, everyone talked on the internet, and everyone's got big opinions. He's not going to know how to drive one of these. He can't drive one of these. Other than the fact that he was very aggressive with the throttle, that was maybe as quick as I've seen a right hand go forward. He pulled to a respectable 4th place, stayed off the brakes. I mean, he was just fine. I thought, he did a just fine. Actually, I think if you give that guy 2, 3, 4, 5 more shots in a light mod or a 7,400 pound mod, he's got a victory in him. I mean, he can walk away a winner. He
did not fear the horsepower. He kept that. I watched his right arm going down the track, and he had her pinned forward all the way down and dug the biggest holes of the weekend in the track, of course.
Well, I think if you watch that video with him and Chase where they talk about it, and they talked extensively about how go easy on that throttle, and to his feel, he really felt that he was. And you could even talk about him burping the throttle in the pit, such a different sport than maybe drag racing or NASCAR, and the load that our motors prefer to be under and that throttle control. But they never talked about getting out of the throttle once the red flag went up. Or sometimes you'll even notice, Ron, flagmen to today's pulling, they'll almost kind of throw the red after they get out of the throttle. Pullers know when their run's done. Well, Cletus, he was just in it until he saw red and just digging down, and finally the flagman redded him, and he stayed into that, but took the motor upstairs. But I think he could win if he did that a couple more times.
Yeah, and he immediately recognized right after that run when I interviewed him that he said, yeah, I think I got in the throttle a little too hard, too fast, and that's what hurt me. I think you give this guy a few more shots, and he'd be a pretty good driver on the pulling track, honestly.
Well, it was a well-produced video. I hope that, like everything, that it gains more fans. It reshapes people's perception of pulling. Love seeing the twin-engine class grow, whether it be at the NTPA 6200 or the Outlaw 7400. Some partial to 7400 and the variety that brings, but always an amazing class. And it's fun too when you're watching a guy like Cletus who's sitting there, and this is for all our fans. This thing's got 2 Hemis on it. It's got 2, and he's just blown away. And
2 billet Hemis. 2 billet Hemis.
We're in the background chuckling, saying they build these with 4, 5, 6. Like, this is, you just wait, buddy. Like, you're in for a whole roll on stuff. So neat stuff. Love the enthusiasm. We got meaningful pulling going on in March. What's better than that?
Yeah, it was a good time. It really was. I mean, the weather was really great. Had a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. You have 2 billet Hemis, he kept saying.
He said that in his production from his perspective multiple times. And Chase did a great job. If you watch the Cletus McFarlane YouTube video, Chase does a great job front to back, just explaining what a light modified is, explaining what a weight transfer machine is. The NTPA officials did a nice job of that. Good for young pulling fans to just watch that as a learning device. I can remember I used to watch like the Cavalcade of Power and Fort Recovery from 1985 when I was a young kid. And that's
the American Sports Cavalcade. Yeah.
That's where I learned, how a weight transfer machine worked, and John Heilman explaining, how gearboxes worked. And so if you're a young pulling fan, go watch this stuff because you'll just glean a lot from it. It was fun. It was a well-produced video.
Definitely. Ben Beller, I'm not going. Mike, are you going to the truck show?
I have been back and forth. It's one of those. I would really like to go watch our guys. We've got some guys pulling down there.
Outlaw pullers going, yeah.
But it's one of the they're pulling, and the fun part about it is the Outlaw guys are going to pull at Freedom Hall with their natural tried and true setup. And that's what we're excited for. And we're excited to see 2 teams like Sweet Pain, a triple Chevy that I don't know if they've ever had the opportunity to pull at Freedom Hall, but always have been deserving of it. So I would love to go. I'm not saying I won't, but it's on the out. To me, if I'm going to go support my guys, I want to spend all afternoon in the pits letting them know I'm there and supporting them. But it would be one of those where I would have to roll in right at showtime and just go straight to my seat. So I'm not sure. I do also, on that good comment there, Ben, a lot of our guys jumped over to Louisiana this week, kind of on their way up there. So we had a big slew of Outlaw Texas pullers bring their 2-wheelers over down to Louisiana. So I just wanted to give all those guys a big shout out. I imagine they're kind of laying over there on their way up to Louisville. But I kind of tried to follow some of what was going on down there. But guys, it looked like you had fun. It looked like you did a good job. So 2 thumbs up to all our Texas pullers and the Outlaws that were hanging out in Louisiana this weekend too.
Preston Collins, who won the pro stock diesel 4-wheel drive there in Hammond, he will be on the show tonight, Mike. I don't have any video. I may lean on you to pull some video to show what happened to him. And he's going to talk about his goal for this year. He's got some big things planned for his trucks this season. Pretty cool. I'm not going to spill the beans on it yet. I want him to talk about it, explain it. But he will be on, and I'm sure we'll talk about the fire a little bit as well. But interesting, Pull Party HQ says Cletus's pull on YouTube already has over 1 million views. So, that's great for pulling.
And there were so many good bits too. And Chase did such a great job and everybody did a good job. But, I almost screen recorded and clipped it out because Cletus was kind of asking. He asked all the right questions. If you're someone who's just learning about pulling, watch this video because Cletus asked a lot of the just on the nose questions. And he kind of said, when is this happening and who is it happening with? And then Chase responded with, well, the 2 premier associations, the National Tractor Pullers and the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Association, they'll start this. NTPA starts in March. Outlaws go till October. That just kind of gave me all the warm, fuzzy feelings too. Just you love hearing that, when the Outlaws and NTPA and just to people out there affirming the premier pulling associations out there. And so a lot of good little bits. So 1 million people just heard, hey, Premier Pulling, go check us out. Full Pull Live. Of course, then Chase says Full Pull Live, which is exactly where you watch all of it. He goes, you can watch pulling. He said, I've heard Chase say this before. It's an 11-month sport at this point. I mean, it's year-round. Ron, when you started with the Outlaws, did you think you'd be traveling places? Last year you went to Satsuma in February. You're here in Satsuma in March. Like, it's a year-round deal for you now, isn't it?
Yeah, I went to Ocala in I think it was 19 and covered a pull there for Full Pull TV. So, did I think it would be a regular thing? Not really, but I always, ever since I went down there in 2019, I knew that Florida was ripe for bringing Grand National Pulling back there because I saw the crowds and the cold weather back in 19 that they stood out there. And, people in Florida, they don't get out when it's 32 degrees, but they were then, and they were 30 deep, standing room only at that event. I thought, wow, these people down here love truck and tractor pulling. So
it's got a rich history. I've been reading through some pulling magazines lately and learning about these names that I'd kind of forgotten about, but kind of knew with your Chris Holdorfs and your Glenn Davises. And there was in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of pulling, with the Mr. Sparkle truck and the Florida Cricker. They wanted it. So yeah, I think what you're saying is spot on. They know their way around this. They haven't forgotten. I'd be willing to bet.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun because the crowd had such a good time. And like I said, what that's like to pull for a really great crowd like that that's into it. And, for those motorsports and those folks that are, getting a little uptight about Cletus coming in and not driving a NASCAR, truck series truck or a car, things like that. And they're getting a little upset because he didn't pay his dues or something like that. Just step back and look at the eyes he's bringing to your sport that may have never seen it before or may have never, as far as seeing it, had it explained to them, like they're seeing it with him. And his video, it was just this past Friday night. It's Tuesday, and has over 1 million hits, and they didn't have the video up immediately. I don't think the video came out till yesterday. So that is super cool, and there's going to be a lot of people, I think, Google searching, looking on Facebook at modified tractors and truck and tractor pull and, NTPA and Outlaw and things like that. So it's only going to bring more eyes to the sport and hopefully build the fan base.
You couldn't have written a better script because his reaction is so genuine and he's so pumped up and it's so infectious. But the questions that he asks, if you're like, I'm telling you, if you're someone who kind of knows a little bit about pulling or you've never heard pulling, the way he asks it and the way it gets presented, the way it's packaged, it's a good video. I highly recommend it. It's one of those that you put in your back pocket and just you go back to, like, we were talking about the American sports cavalcade and all those, they were on TNN or TNT or something like that. We used to watch them all the time. Yeah. And it's like that. But on YouTube, it's great. It's the 21st century there.
Yeah. We were, Kevin Davis, want to send a shout out to Kevin. He's ill right now, been in the hospital, spending a few days in the hospital, but on the mend right now. So want to send a get well shout out to our buddy Kevin Davis there from the Wayne County Fair in Wayne, Nebraska. Get well soon. I don't have anybody to give a hard time to, so I need you to get well soon so we can talk on the phone. Or maybe it's I need somebody to give me a hard time, because he always gives me a hard time. Yeah,
that's how you'll know Kevin is feeling good again, when he can call you and we're like good cop, bad cop with Kevin. Kevin calls me and it's just, here's how great and wonderful everything is. And he calls you and says, well, hey, Stoner, we need this, and this. So yeah, he'll be feeling good again when he knows that he can give you a hard time. And we hope that's as soon as possible.
Yeah, get well soon, buddy. And we're going to put the spotlight on a sponsor.
Yeah.
A great sponsor, Tim Meyer with Sullivan Auctions, Big Iron, and Sullivan Auctions. We're going to have him come on the show for a few minutes live here. Great sponsor. And Mike, you'll remember this guy and all the outlaw pullers and families and crews that go to the banquet in November, the Outlaw Banquet. Tim is the auctioneer that does the auction at the end of the night. He's been doing it for 5 or 6 years. So without further ado here, he is out of makeup. Looks like they've done a good job. We'll bring on Tim Meyer. Tim, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, great, guys. Thanks for having me on. What a privilege.
Absolutely. Did I get that right? It was 5 or 6 years you've done the auction at the banquet?
I believe so. It doesn't feel like that long, but I think if I really calculated it, it has been. It's a good time. And, I just listening to your show, it's so amazing to be a part of a group. It feels like kind of the birth of NASCAR maybe 20, 30 years ago. You don't have the major sponsorships in it yet. You still got, it's a family sport, but boy, it's taken off, and it's why not? I mean, these guys they've got machines that definitely rival some definitely short track cars that are either money wise, they've got a lot of money in these machines, so it only makes sense that it would be going to the level that it's at. And as far as Sullivan Big Iron, we're just glad to be a part of it. But it is amazing just to hear how big this sport is becoming. 11 months. That's longer than NASCAR as far as that goes. So impressive.
Yeah, I hope that rings true. I really do. I hope, a slow, substantial growth. Pulling it hit big in the late 80s, 80s, early 90s. The monster truck sensation kind of stole the fire a little bit. But the competition has always been there. It's a very competitive sport. And the way I tell people, it's a family sport, like you said. What I like to remind people of is look at the people your kids look up to in sports. Not always the greatest figures you want them looking up to and emulating, but look at the folks in truck and tractor pulling. I mean, over half of them are farmers. I mean, and they're great salt of the earth people, God-fearing. Those are the kind of people folks want their kids looking up to. Hard-working folks that are out there competing in this great hobby that we call truck and tractor pulling.
And getting to know some of the folks that are involved, they really are out for everybody, and they're happy when everybody else wins. And it's really a family atmosphere. And when you're spending that many nights at that many pulls, that many hooks, they spend more time together than they do at home. They're more nights on the road. It's such a massive commitment that I don't think folks really know. And it's not near as highly subsidized as some of the other sports that are of this caliber, of this money. And so it's definitely a cool thing to be a part of. And I can just feel in the last 5-6 years how this thing is growing and what Outlaw has done all by itself and where it's come in the last few years, and the help of you guys and everybody else. But how could you not get addicted to this?
Yeah, to look at our like our social media reach, it grows every year, Tim. It's amazing, and I always like to give this as an example of how far. Yeah, we pull mainly in the Midwest. We don't cross the Mississippi very often. We don't cross the Rocky Mountains very often. But our reach through live streaming, Case IH gave away a tractor the last couple of years with the Outlaws. And in 2024, the tractor giveaway, they had entries from all but what was it, Mike? 2 states or one state?
All but one. You said a 49
state.
out of 50, and we were only missing Vermont. You said
Vermont
was the only state that we didn't get in 2024. Tim, how does that make you feel when you hear with an association like this? And I love your passion for the Outlaws, because I love that it's a two-way partnership here, and that passion is infectious. But when you hear things like, your partnership is also being exposed, by association there to 49 out of 50 states, or you're in with something where, it goes both ways. I just love that it feels like it's great for both sponsors and the Outlaws as a whole. So when you're hearing that, that footprint's like that, that's got to be exciting for you as a businessman too, I'd imagine.
It absolutely is. And Sullivan, the Big Iron theme, it's centrals out of Nebraska. So when you get to that, I mean, we basically lay on top of exactly where the pulls are going on. But the last sale that we had, we sold equipment to 44 different states. So 800 and some thousand registered bidders. And it doesn't matter if it's trucks, tractors, if it's equipment, we probably sell it. And these guys they're farming, they're doing all kinds of the same functions. It just complements each other so well. And we've had sales that have been retirements that we've had pulling tractors in the background. And usually that's the tractor that doesn't sell. That's the sentimental one. But anyway, absolutely. It just pairs up so good. And it's folks that we like and like to deal with. And it's the same kind of people, I guess.
How much exposure had you had to pulling prior to the partnership? Now, being out there in rural Nebraska, this is something that I'm sure you're very well aware of, but had you watched it to the level or to the extent, that we are doing now, or were you always a big pulling fan, or, what has it kind of been like hanging out with the Outlaws over the past handful of years?
Great question. I was a kid of the 80s, so grew up and going to the local tractor pulls. I'm from Southeast Iowa, so Kelowna had a big pull every year. Sure. And Ernie Ropp, and he's a good name, and he ran a good pull, but that was a completely different time. Guys would bring the tractors right out of the field, and that was fun. But to see how it's gotten to now, and it's like anything else, whether, my kids show livestock, everything is just amped up. If you're competing, and I don't care where you're at or what you're doing, it's hard to win anything. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. And these guys, they are the pinnacle of dedication. They are constantly refining what they have. And then what is amazing is once they have it, they'll share it with anybody. They're open to, it isn't a trade secret. They all want everybody to do better. And I think that's what escalated the sport so quickly, because everybody wants everybody to succeed. It's a really, really cool thing to be a part of it. Unless you get involved, you just don't understand that. But whether you're a fan or you're in the stands, I think you see that. And I think it's it's a county fair. It's such a local event, but they're bringing big time machines and big time competitors to your local county fair. It's in a lot of these counties, it's the biggest thing that would happen all year, to have that kind of competitors right there in their backyard. And what a cool thing. What a cool thing.
And to a lot of the kids out there, Tim, that's exactly it. That's, a lot of the kids, that's the biggest thing they look forward to all year. I'm speaking from experience, and I know for Mike as well, when we were kids, going to the tractor pull, that was Disneyland. I mean, if you gave me a choice, when I was, 6, 7, 8 years old, tractor pull would have won hands down over Disney World or Disneyland. I had no interest in that. It was tractor pulling.
I didn't know. I didn't know that they weren't. I was talking to Dave Novak at the farm show, and he was chuckling at me. And I said, Dave, you got to realize, growing up as a kid, I didn't realize that you professional pullers weren't Michael Jordan or the Rolling Stones. To me, I'd go out and I'd see, well, your equipment's just as great looking as Bigfoot, or a NASCAR Sprint Cup car out there, and you're competing. And going back to what Ron said earlier, but the better part is these are people that want to meet you, want to meet your kids, let you sit up there and take a picture with them. But it really is. I love that point you made, Tim, about this might be the biggest thing that comes to Concord, Nebraska, or that comes to West Point or something like that at every single year. And it's fun to kind of take stock and step back and realize that it really is important for the fans and the folks out there.
I agree. You talk about a Talladega or a Daytona. These guys have to get this track ready for one event, and the work that goes into that is just incredible. And it's more than work; it's pride. That they're because a lot of these guys are the fair boards that are bringing these pulls, and they want it to succeed. It's such everybody's on the same side of the fence, even the pullers, and it's just a neat thing to be a part of, and we're just so excited to be a part of it, for sure.
And there's tons of work that goes into one of these, a fair that has one event or a standalone pulling event. There's so much work that goes on behind the scenes, the planning stages leading up to it, getting sponsorship, getting all of the equipment, getting all the people, the volunteers, or the people that, that will work. It is a lot of work leading up to, before, during, and after these events. So, it's really cool to see. It's a family sport, and it's cool to see everybody pitch in. But, Tim, I want to talk about Sullivan Big Iron Auctions a little bit. This is kind of a new deal here with Sullivan and Big Iron, correct?
Correct, yeah. This is our first year that we're with you, and we're excited to be here, and it's exciting. We go all over the United States. We basically are in the central United States, but we have people and reps that are from East Coast to West Coast. But we obviously started in Nebraska, and so that is St. Edward, Nebraska is the hub of Big Iron, and we branched from there. Big Iron has gotten known for their weekly auction. They have a sale every week. Sometimes we have 1,500 lots. Sometimes we'll have 3,000 lots. There'll be tractors to farm equipment to bulldozers. And in the last couple of years, I've been pretty instrumental. We started a truck and trailer auction that we're having 4 times a year. We just got done with that. And we also do on-site auctions. We do about everything that is typical. Of course, with everything else and with technology, we're an online auction company. We used to be a live company, but it just seems like when you're accessing and we sell equipment all over the world too, but not as much as we do in the United States, obviously. But Canada is a big buyer too, especially of bigger equipment, bigger 4-wheel drives. So it's a fun company to be with, and the growth in that company has been astronomical. Also, I think we did about 1.4 billion in sales last year, and sell equipment, sell land, and it's a fun place to be at.
And you said all of these auctions, even though they're in person on a lot, you can still go online and bid.
We do, and I think what has changed so much is the online presence used to be the sideline. It wasn't the main thing, and now it's the main thing. So we don't take 3 or 4 pictures of a combine. We may take 200 pictures of a combine, because it's most likely the buyer is never going to see that combine. The other thing that I tell folks is, if you're coming to pick up this combine that you just bought or whatever it is, and you tell me, well, this is a lot better than what I thought it was going to be, that's great. We want to take pictures and be extremely honest about what is there, tires and any kind of a conditional thing. And I think it allows people, and they bid more money. We're an absolute platform, which is pretty typical in the auction business anymore. But that creates a pretty honest bidding platform, and folks feel pretty confident in bidding in an absolute atmosphere.
So you do land, tractors, trucks, trailers, implements, other assets. If I'm, let's say Preston Collins is backstage here, if he wants to sell his pulling trucks, who does he contact at Sullivan Big Iron Auctions to get that started?
We can contact any of the reps. You can contact the office. You can obviously contact me. I know that myself and Trevor, we're going to come to a lot of the polls this summer. We've gotten pulled in with a guy that I don't know if you know him or not, Todd Bowles. Maybe a couple of people know him on the show.
I don't know who that is.
But he's been really good, and I've seen what he's done, and I said, I want to be a part of that too. And so I got to put a shout out to him, because if it wouldn't be for him, we wouldn't probably be a part of this, and I'm so thankful that we are. But yeah, absolutely, we would just reach out to anybody, but I don't know. I guess my contact's not out there, but you can sure reach out to me and we can get it to you. If there's something that you have that you want to sell, we can come to your place and we can book it right there and take all the pictures and do all that right at your place. You don't have to move it, but you can. We also have lots that you can move it to also. So
how does someone get a hold of you, Tim?
Sure. My number 319-750-1233. Again, that number 319-750-1233. And you can go to sullivanauctioneers.com. You can go to bigiron.com. You can check out all that. I'm sure if you dig deep enough, you can probably find me there somewhere. I hope so. But I guess I've never done that. I should do that. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys having me on. And we're just really excited about the season coming up. And hopefully I get to see a lot more of you guys.
Yep, Case Conover, he may have some Case tractors he wants to sell or even buy.
I see
that. Even cattle. Yes, we do sell cattle. They sell horses. Okay. They do sell cattle. Yeah, a lot of it. And online, and it works pretty good.
Horses, yeah. Preston Collins backstage. His daughters love horses, so you may have a buyer there too. So.
Fun.
Yeah, Todd Bowles, that guy's just as sick as Mike and I are. We have the sickness of truck and tractor pulling. Todd, he's a huge fan also.
Todd sets the gold standard. Yeah.
If you look up passion, that guy's picture is there. It doesn't matter what he's doing. He's passionate about it. And I appreciate him so much because, and I think, I don't really know, but part of our sponsorship's going to points. And Kurt, I'm not going to get in front of you or step on you. I don't really know how that works, but I think we want to be a part of that too. I think some of the stuff is going to some points from our sponsorship too. So we want it to go right back to the pullers, and I want to make sure I put that out there. And I'm not sure how that's going to work. It's more up to Kurt than it is to me, but we definitely have interest in that too. So
awesome. I think it's a great partnership. Their Case Conover said they buy a lot from Big Iron there in Texas. So I think it's a great partnership, and we look forward to seeing you this summer. SullivanAuctioneers.com is the website to find out more. Tim Meyer with Sullivan Big Iron Auctions. Tim, thanks for taking the time out and coming on tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, buddy. Talk to you soon. Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris Kilbarger says pulling is addictive. Yes, I agree.
There's worse hobbies to have out there, Yeah. There's worse things a person can be doing. So,
but I tell myself that all the time. I tell myself that all the time, Mike, when I'm having a rough day or a rough week, during the pulling season or whatever, and you sit back and think, man, this is rough, and then I start thinking, you know what? I've had worse jobs.
This is what I've said to myself. Don't forget to love what you do while you're doing what you love, because Ron, this is what we wanted to be doing. I mean, from day one, and every one of these pullers would say the same thing. And it's work. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That was the first thing that I learned day one with the Outlaws is there's so much behind the scenes to not only announcing, but putting on a whole tractor pull. A fan, you go up there and, hey, cool, tractors are going down the track. And that's kind of what you see. But every 3 minutes of pulling, there's 3 hours of work behind the scene, But don't forget to love what you do while you're doing what you love, and never pray for a rain out. Those are kind of my two mantras every time I head out to a pull. I'd never pray for a rain out. The minute you start thinking, oh, I could go for a rain out, we'll find a way to make the show happen, because pulling is awesome.
Let's talk diesel truck pulling. Which class you say?
Yeah, this is
How about 3.0 limited pro? How about pro stock? How about super stock? All rolled into one.
I'm curious, and he's the perfect guy to talk to, but Ron, it was right in front of what you saw a lot down there in Florida. Is the single charger the new multi-charger? That was kind of one of the hot conversations coming out after Florida. Now, I've kind of been mulling this over with tractors for a while, but we're seeing it in semis, we're seeing it in trucks. I don't know, that super stock class or the pro stock class or the limited pro stock class, it looks like they're doing some discovery through there. What do you think? What did you see, or what was the vibe down there this weekend?
Yeah, well, a single charger truck won on Saturday night in Zellwood. So a big single charger truck. I don't know. Let's talk to Preston Collins a little bit and see what his goals are for the 2026 season. Preston, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Doing good.
Oh,
Still not home yet, but in Tupelo, Mississippi right now.
I know that feeling all too well. Rigs just came in yesterday afternoon. We actually just got done washing the ashes off of Prime and got it back in the shop. And no, we registered Prime and 3.0, 3.6, and super stock between both organizations. And we're going to have fun with this. We're not necessarily chasing points because it can't be in two places at one time, but we're kind of proving some technology advances in the industry, and with the single charger, with the common rail setup, with Chad Perkins and Lenny Reed, and there's been a few other guys that's also had a lot to do with this. So the power advances we're making and the cost to be able to run 3.6 super stock with some of the 3.0 components per se is, we never thought we'd be able to flow the amount of fuel we can through a common rail injector, even to play with the 3.6 guys, much less the super stock guys. And the data we're getting back is great. I've got another marine project that we're putting some common rail stuff in, and even the failures that we're getting, such as last weekend, is a big learning experience of what to expect before we get this thing in multi-million-dollar boats. It's fun. It's fun innovating. It's fun working with these guys. Everybody in the industry, Chris Kuzlik, Cummins Killer, everybody that was in Florida, some of the Shad guys, some of the Hazley guys, Brad Ingram, a lot of the whole industry has come forward with information to help us pull this off. And we still have a lot to learn. I can't come out here and talk to you as if I've been running super stock in 3.6 class for years, because I haven't. I talk to them guys weekly and learn a lot from them.
Let's go back to the beginning, how you got into pulling and what class you started in to get you started here.
I started pulling in 2007, I want to say it was, with the LBZ Duramax. Back then, I was a mechanic working for a local shop in Central Texas. Shouldn't have been pulling my personal truck. It was my only daily driver I had. And I love pulling so much. I would buy the tuners and buy this and buy that instead of paying my truck note. I get to the end of the track and the repo guy was down there waiting on me.
That's one of those where you need to win at the track, so that way you can get your check, sign it, and just hand it to him and keep pulling.
It's pretty much happened a couple times, yes.
That's crazy.
That's been years ago, and been blessed with a good Lord and good people, good company, great company that I own and operate here in Texas and out throughout the United States. And me and Jeremy Bells was pulling back then, and I thought it was the same thing. We pulled through 2008, and roughly, I think back then it was a 2.6 class. Still Dana 80 rear end and whatnot, and pulled with some good guys in Texas. And life happens, and get married, have kids, and we're sitting here at dinner table one night with Jeremy out here in West Texas, and his truck has been sitting in the barn for a little over 10 years, and the truck was, was white and green, still same paint job that you see today, on all hopped up. And I told him, I said, hey, we're going to scratch this itch because we've been talking about it for a year, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I'll just jump in the rollback that Saturday morning and head to Hyco, Texas, about 5 hours from here. And he was actually out here at work. And I call him and say, hey, where are the keys at? Well, what do you mean? I said, I'm here picking up your truck. Where are the keys at? And, at that time, we still had to have keys. It still had ignition and all that, and old 12 valve. And that's kind of when we got back into it. We pulled the truck in the shop in Odessa and got to looking at the rules, got to talking to people like, man, we're outdated on this thing. There's no way we're going to pull this year and be any kind of competitive. And lo and behold, the Straley's had Thunderstruck for sale. We flew up there, looked at it, and brought Thunderstruck home, and that's kind of where it all started. That first year, me and Jeremy traded back and forth driving Thunderstruck when we were building his truck. Learned a lot off of Thunderstruck and made some changes. I wouldn't say Jeremy's truck is a copy and paste of Thunderstruck, but it was a copy and paste of what we wanted, the changes we wanted to make. And slowly got introduced back into the pulling series and meeting people, and then finding these common rails starting to whoop our butt on year 2, and why are these common rails coming around us so much? So we started asking questions and meet some more people. And Chad brought his personal truck down to Lufkin, and Chad Perkins, and
Yep.
I jumped in the driver's seat of it, and I was blown away with what Chad was doing with his program, and Chad being a little closer to Texas than who we were currently using helped out as well. Chad's not afraid to try anything. That's what I like about Chad. We can sit there and conversate over the tuning or the cubic inch or whatever it is, and make sense of what we want to do and where we want to go. And that's where we're at today. And not to take away from anybody else, we got a brand new shad billet motor over there that we work with Brad Ingram on in Kent. It's a heck of a machine. I still got a lot of learning to do. We made 2 passes on it last weekend. Truck and engine did fantastic. If I can learn how to put a V-band clamp on a stack, it'd be a lot better. But we're gonna get that one fixed.
So I'm curious. Go ahead, Ron.
No, I think I met you and Jeremy. Was it about 2018 in Arizona?
Yes, that was in Arizona. We were looking for a pull. We were itching to pull, and we went down there with Thunderstruck, and we traded off pulling Thunderstruck down there.
And Thunderstruck is gone now, or?
Nope, Thunderstruck still. Actually, Thunderstruck may be for sale. I don't know. Thunderstruck is up at Attitude Diesel in Ohio. They're going to pull it and debut it this year. Will I sell it? I don't know. I can't run 4 trucks. I say 4 trucks. We got Jeremy's truck as well. So even though it's just Jeremy's truck, we still, me and him trade off on duties on whether it's building that truck or loading it or driving it. Same thing with my trucks, and it's a shared responsibility. But 3 is enough right now. They're going to run that 4th one up in Ohio and debut it, and maybe somebody will make me an offer I can't turn down.
Well, let's talk about the 2 new trucks. One that has debuted last October in Lufkin, ran in 2 classes. It ran in the limited pro class and also jumped up in the super stock class with a pro stock setup on it. But you also have another truck that hasn't seen the track yet. So let's talk about Prime right now, the white Ford. Let's talk about that truck and what your plans are for it this summer.
So the white Ford Prime, we're going to run all 3 classes with it. It's going to run 3.0, 3.6, and super stock. Currently, you can kind of see behind me, there's a super stock turbo laying right next to the tires. The 3.6 Charger is currently on it. That motor that's in this truck right now currently belongs to Lenny Reed and Dynamite Diesel. We weren't quite done with my engine over at Perkins Diesel, so Lenny was courteous enough to let us borrow his and get some more data. And I kind of got toasted like a marshmallow, but it'll be all right. Just bake that paint in a little bit, but luckily it wasn't as bad as what it could have been. Engine is fine, but that's what we're going to do with that one. This truck's running really, really well in the 3.6 class. The horsepower that Chad is making, you can the dynos are different, but it's showing up on the track, and and this particular truck has a torque sensor in it, so we can measure torque and horsepower going down the track and take an average of that and put it in our data and kind of keep up with what was in the engine and the tune that was in the engine and turbo as well. This particular truck, everything that you can possibly monitor as far as data, even injector return rate, fuel return rate off the pumps, everything that you could possibly measure is being measured. That's why this tuning is really important. Even when it comes to the marine project, we want an efficient platform. We don't want something we got to rebuild up every 2 or 3 hooks, and we don't want to drive 1,500 miles to have a problem that could have been fixed beforehand. So even with the super stock program, it's going that route as well. On the mechanical, we got a Hartz pump, billet pump on it. Brandon at Hartz has been awesome to work with on both projects. He's done a tremendous job on the dyno. We've blown a lot of stuff up on the dyno trying to figure out where we need to be. And we give them the data and we go back and do what we got to do. But
so this summer you're going to be running 3 classes. That means you're going to have to carry 2 sets of tires.
So we
carry
carry
turbos, 3 different turbos with you this summer.
We will carry 3 sets of tires for prime. We'll carry 3 sets of turbos and 2 engines. And the engines will be fully dressed.
The turnaround time. Let's say that you're at a pull like it could be anywhere. And let's say the afternoon session, you're going to run the 3.0 setup. And then the night session, you're going to run the super stock class or vice versa. How quickly can you go from one setup to another? And what all does that kind of entail? I mean, people might think, well, just take one charger off, put another on. But I'm sure you've got to make some modifications to your setup for that specific pull that night too. How quickly can you guys do that transfer?
So as far as the chassis setup going to 3.6 and super stock, I still need some more data with the super stock with the truck hooking. We couldn't get a good hook in the Florida sand, I guess you would say. So we need more data there. There's not going to be much data chassis change. As far as what Chad's working on, we're running an O2 sensor more or less in the Stag, and we got the capability for the tune to make its own changes based on the fuel quantity and the air quantity going into the engine. We have changed tunes going from 3.6 to super stock. I foresee us changing injectors as well. We can get a little bit better tune out of swapping injectors. Can we leave a set of injectors in it? Yes, but we don't have the best of the best for each world per se. Other than that, we learned that we needed to go to 3 pumps on the super stock setup. So we're going to run 3 pumps in all classes. So your typical change would be 15 minutes. We're going to go, say we're going from 3.0 to 3.6. We're going to change tires. We're going to change a gear and a turbo. With 3 guys, 30 minutes, about what it took us at Lufkin. We go to super stock. We're just changing the turbo and possibly a tune, maybe some injectors. Injectors would be the longest, 45 minutes max if you've had 3 people working on it. But we're going to go up and run, help me out, Ron, that pull we have in Indiana is 3.0, 3.6, or 3.0 super stock. Evansville,
Busch Light Nationals here.
Yep, this truck will be there. We'll run both classes with it. We're on the talks with Lenny and Chad about changing motors and both the classes instead of making other changes. We have, both engines are fully dressed, clutches, clutch cans. It might be faster to change the whole engine than actually changing the injectors. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but we are trying to prove a fact that this is doable. It might scare some of the engine builders. I don't think it's a bad thing for the sport. I think some people need to adapt, and I think it's going to drive their business even more, and it's going to drive the sport even more. It's going to make 3.6 and super stock a little bit more affordable per se in some areas. But that's where the technology is. We've had electronic injections, since 2003 in pickups. And not to take away from the mechanical side, I love driving that mechanical truck, and it makes good power. I'm not saying we're making any more power than a mechanical, absolutely not. But I think we can be competitive.
Yeah, I think in that super stock class, you know, and I haven't been around it very long, honestly. I've slowly become a fan. I just the best way I can describe, let's say Friday night at Satsuma this past Friday, was just these trucks are angry, man. They are.
Oh yeah.
And you know, when a diesel is turning 5,000 RPMs, it sounds like 10,000 to your ears. It just sounds like it's screaming. And
Well,
I had a ball watching those trucks this weekend.
Well, and 5,000 was nothing. That's what I've been used to in the 3.0 class, even 55. And, you know, here the last few pulls, even at Diesel and Dark Corners, and Chad, you know, with the Cuban kits who were running, wanting to run up to 7,000 RPMs or even 7,200. I think we've seen 73.
Wow.
That's a whole nother world. Even this past weekend was a whole nother world, even with Brad Ingram's engine and the GMC. It's that 2,000 amount, and it doesn't sound much, 2,000 more than 5,000. Yeah, it is. It is definitely sounds like everything wants to kill you while you're in the cab of the truck. It's a crazy feeling, and it's addicting for sure.
In a class where so much of it is about throttle control and patience. And I think this is the biggest thing that people really look at when they see, especially the super stock diesel trucks, is you're going to walk them out a long ways. I mean, you could be flirting with 200 feet before you bring everything wide open. Is there anything at all to a single charger giving you more throttle control, or is that kind of 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other? Can you get into that single charger more quickly, give her the beans sooner than you could a multi-stage charger?
Say, for instance, and I don't want to speak for Chris Kuzlik or Craig, but, you know, they got to leave at a lot of RPMs to light them big chargers, and their setup and their chassis setup is the way they leave is completely different than anybody else in the industry, and it works for them great. You know, it really is working for them. Whenever you go to, you know, the triple charger setups, I think are going to be hard to beat on a good track. They are making some really good power, but whenever you don't stick that triple charger engine on a loose track and you really, you know, let the rods hang out, you can really hurt that engine really easily, really fast. Not that you can a single charger, but the triple charger is just making so much power so fast, and it's a little bit harder to control, I would say, and drive versus being lights on, lights off. What I like about the common rail on a single charger, I can put a slow ratio in it and leave out like I'm going to get groceries at the gas station, and at 4,000 RPMs light a big charger and roll all the way to 7,200 with the charger lit, or get out of it or what I need. So they're both two totally different driving techniques. They both have their pros and cons. I own them both. I drive them both. I enjoy them both. When something new comes out on the mechanical side, I try to be the first to get it. Something new comes out on the electronic side, I'm trying to be the first to get it and test it and see how we can make this industry better.
Now, the second truck, we haven't talked enough about the second truck here. Is it in the shop there with you?
So let's move the camera real quick.
Yeah, let's take a look at this beast. How much sleep have you had, Preston?
Oh, man. I think I might have got caught up yesterday. Let's see. So we still have some work to do. Let's see. Y'all there?
Yep. I was trying to get a bigger picture of there we go.
Doesn't have the cuts on the front. That's how we got to get it in and out of the trailer. But really nice, clean weight box. The bilge pumps, we actually, a lot of people run a clutch type, mechanical pump on the front of the engine. And it's driving horsepower. We always pay, if it's 10, 20 horsepower, you got people paying thousands of dollars in 3.0 class for that. And 10, 20 horse doesn't do a whole lot for, this class here. But either way, I wanted to clean up the front of the engine. And the technology we have of me being on the marine side and the boating side is, also another business that I own. A company called Hooker Pumps partnered up with us on these pumps. And the amount of water we flow through this double core Waggler intercooler is unreal. I don't think it is mathematically possible to move more water than we're moving. We got some good data on this over the last weekend, and I'm really, really happy. Kuslik's got some of them pumps he's happy with. So I think, talking about technology, even on the mechanical setup, that's one of the things we're doing here. This is a Harsh charger. I don't want to get into Pacific. Some people know, but it's larger than 5 and smaller than 5.5. I'll say that. It's a Performance Pros IFS suspension, so you're almost the identical chassis to Cummins Killer and some of the them new Performance Pros chassis that came out. That Randy's been doing. Randy's had a big help in this on getting us the parts and making this happen. This truck came from Dynamite Diesel from Lenny Reed. A big thanks to him for letting it go and letting us see what we could do with it. The body is a 2025 GMC carbon fiber. It's not fiberglass, that's carbon fiber. That's not a wrap, that is paint.
Ooh, nice.
How much does that body weigh?
We're at around 400 pounds. It's honestly a little heavier than what I thought it was going to be. It is a very, very nice body. There's still some door adjustments and whatnot that we didn't have time to do before we went to Louisiana. But I would say the aluminum body on the Ford, it's neck and neck. This was probably a little bit lighter than the Ford, but I like the aluminum body on the Ford too. The Ford's super clean. And that I started driving a GMC, back in 06 and started pulling in 06. So it don't be surprised one day you might see a V8 in this thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was curious about that. So what kind of bullet you were going with under the hood there, but you're sticking with kind of the tried and true underneath it.
Well, the service you get over at Shad and not to take anything from Chad, but Chad and myself, we were kind of new to the super stock world, and Brad Ingram took us underneath his arm and really helped us out on not only this build but the common rail builds as well, and they knocked this one out of the park. We got some finishing we got to do on it, and it's going to be really competitive. We're excited to go run it, and it's fun to drive. It is a blast to drive. Will
this one also campaign all 3 classes?
No, this one's just super stock. So this is a chromoly TIG welded frame. There is no on the 3.6 class, I guess you'd say, you still have to run OEM frame rails.
Okay, I noticed that on your previous truck that you had over there, the Ford, as you will. And yeah, this one's totally chromoly. So I didn't realize that in the pro stock truck class, that's something that was outside of what I understood or what I knew. So they're still running the frame rails on the pro stock trucks. Right. And when you beat somebody with a pro stock or a frame rail truck in the super stock class, they don't take it to heart. I mean, they get a little aggravated. And I understand. I mean, this truck costs a lot of money. It's a lot of time to build this thing and do what we do. So, Prime is an experimental truck per se. It's a good looking truck. The crowd loves it. We named it Optimus Prime just to mess with Jason Wayman with Megatron. Not to take away, from him, but it was fun messing with him. A lot of people just call it Prime, and that's probably honestly what we'll put on the weight box is Prime. Neither one of these trucks have names on the weight box yet just because we've been so busy. 2 weeks before last weekend, we were 20 hours a day in the shop. We went to bed Friday night in Louisiana after we pulled, and the guys that we have, Chris Franco and Jeremy Bells, we looked at each other like, guys, we've been up over 40 hours. For over 40 hours. And, we actually talked to each other the whole way there. We had one guy that would sleep and the other 2 would drive, and they would stay on the phone with each other because it was a 12, 13-hour drive from West Texas to Hammond, Louisiana. It was I would say we're crazy. Yes, if you want to say we're crazy, I'll agree with you. We're crazy.
It's like I always tell other pullers, heck of a hobby you got there.
Yeah,
it's a fun one.
Yeah, I could remember many a morning waking up under my truck when I was pulling. I You get tired, you're working above your head on something and your arms get tired. You lay them on your chest for a minute. Well, about 4 or 5 in the morning, you do that and close your eyes and you fall asleep. So that happens. So I know a lot of the folks watch and are looking forward to seeing these trucks this summer out there, because we do have this class out on the Outlaw circuit.
Yeah.
There will be 3 diesel pickup classes out this summer with the Outlaws. The 2.6 diesel, the Pro Streaks will be out. The limited Pro Stock, of course. I think we've got 23, 24 hooks for that class this season. And I've actually had to say no to a few promoters on that class because of the popularity of it. I think once some of these promoters get a taste of these super stocks, man, that they're going to want these trucks. I think we've got about 7 or 8 hooks for the class this summer. I look for that to go up after 2026 because it's a cool class.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to see some of the guys from 3.0 jump up to 3.6 where they can go back and forth, just because, for instance, where I'm at in the United States and where your 3.0 pools are, we're at 3.6 and super stocks. It's either way, it's a drive. And, being that we have the ability to do whatever, sometimes it makes more sense to go to this or that. So it's nice to have the ability to pick and choose what class you want to run.
Yeah. Yeah. Once those pro stocks start picking up a little bit, we may be able to, add that class. But you've shown that a pro stock can run with the super stocks at Lufkin last year. Actually, I think if you'd had the right gear, you might have won that down in Lufkin.
Well, and that was my first hook ever. Not to take away from Cody over there. That the track was had a little dip in it, and it'd be nice to be able to run a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, the whatever prime came up to 7,000 RPMs in that pull, it was like a holy cow. What's going on? And we can't dyno up to that RPM on the dyno. So even Chad and everybody else was like, Jason Wayman was blown away. We were all we didn't know what was going to happen. The thing could have scattered right there.
Yeah. I imagine at 7,000 RPM, when you've never dynoed that and you haven't ran with that, is a part of you saying, wow, I didn't know this thing was capable of this, while the other half of you is saying, is it capable of holding together? Are you excited or are you nervous when you see that number?
Well, the components in this engine are fairly, they're really close to the same billet crank, and I knew the bottom end was going to hold up. But on the common rail side of things, and what Chris Kuzlik battled for so long, and he was a veteran in this, and he started the common rail deal with Cummins Killer. The whole issue was trying to get the injector duration in fast enough and get that duration short enough where we could get enough fuel in that time. And we didn't know, and we still don't know what the limit is on the super stock setup. So we still have some testing to do there. And by all means, we don't want to, ruin $100,000 motor, but we might have to figure out which way we need to go. But I think we're good with our data right now. Our temperatures, even in the 3.6 class, are 1,300 degrees. And it's very little water. Honestly, the 3.6, we don't even need to run water. And super stocks, if we didn't want to run water, it's not that big a deal. The mechanical engines, they don't run water. That's big problems.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this past weekend. You went and bulled with Mid-South down in Hammond, Louisiana, kind of a hometown pull for you where you're originally from. The video's viral out there, several videos of the Prime truck burning up. I know you won the pull, but damage was done.
So we'll touch briefly on this because I need to do a video myself, but we'll cover some stuff on this. We were Jeremy Bells, my right-hand man, and he would have been there right probably before any other fire extinguisher was, but he was literally a truck in between us, so he was already suited up in his truck. And whenever I took off, you can see in the video, you see the fuel spraying out of the grill. I couldn't see any of that. And this being a different engine than what I ran at Diesel and Dark Corners, and the first time bolting a 3.6 Charger up to it, I thought it was a little bit sluggish than what I was used to, but this is a different cubic inch as well. And we got to the end of the track. I felt like I made a decent hook. I didn't feel any reason to pull out of the throttle. Only the truck kind of got upset in the middle of the track. You can see that. And for a split second, I kind of questioned, do I need to abort the run? And it settled back down. Got to the end of the track, and I always blip the throttle so I can hear the engine, make sure everything's good, or if I need to kill it right then and there. And blip the throttle, and all of a sudden I see fire. That truck, and we'll come back over here to this truck. That truck is equipped with a fire suppression system. It has 12 nozzles under the cowl on a 5-pound can. You might be able to zoom in up and under the cowl. I haven't took the can off yet. Can is drained. Suppression did go off. And, you can't see in the video all the fire that was on the firewall, even the fire that was coming in the cab with me. Whenever I said it, and pardon me if you can't see this, but you see that fire handle right there?
Can't really tell on my screen. It's pretty small. So,
well, let me pull the camera off here. See if I can turn it around.
The other thing you can do, turn your phone horizontal, and then that'll fill our screen automatically. If you turn it horizontal, it'll give now we've got a full picture that folks at home can see.
Let's see, back triple. There's all kinds of back camera. Maybe that's what we need to do.
There we go. Yeah.
You see that red handle right there?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that's the fire suppression system right there. That made that 5-pounder go off, and you can kind of see in the picture where the nozzles are. There's 3 nozzles on each stem under that cowl. And whenever everything happened, and the first thing I did was reach down and pull fuel shutoff. All my fuel levers are right here. That's going to be your air. That's going to be your fuel. I pulled both of them. They did work. We have a mileage fuel valve on the side of this engine. So it shut the fuel off. The next thing I did was hit the stop button. I didn't even hit ignition. Ignition's here. Hit the stop button. What the stop button does is kill absolutely all power to the whole truck, even the hydraulic system. There's a big solenoid relay back here, right up and under here that all my mains go to, and that kills power to the whole truck. So I had to give it a second for the onboard fire extinguisher to work, which did. The firewall has very little burns on it, and even that black cowling has very little burns on it. Now, what I'm learning out of this, obviously I need more. I need to bring the lines further up the cowl on this particular fire. We normally burn about a half a gallon down the track. We're missing nearly 2 out of the tank. So, obviously it started spraying fairly early. The number 2 injector line right here was the one that had a crack in it. Didn't break in half. It just had a crack. I was suspecting one of these other lines on some of the dual feed pumps to be cracked, but no, everything was good here. Now, the failure that we had on this particular engine, we have these failures in the shop quite often. We have them on boats. We have them on frac pumps, big 2000 V16 engines, locomotive engines. So it's not an unknown failure. But after talking to some people in the industry over the last few days, myself, we're going to put a cover over these high pressure lines. And necessarily, we already had exhaust covers, turbine covers, and I can go over here and show you these, what it did to the air filter. Now, all these manifold covers and turbine exhaust covers caught fire. They're all soaked. So a lot of that was burning was that. It happened really fast. It was a really hot fire. We're not running any special fuel. We're running Brad Ingham at Shad. We're running their fuel. So, as far as safety is concerned, I'm doing everything that I know that I can do. Now, what I've learned is, hey, on these common rail engines, I'm going to start putting covers on them. Will it become a rule? Possibly. Some of y'all might be aggravated at me about that, but this has happened a few times on common rails, and that's not going to happen to me again.
No, yeah.
Now, watching the video, and I think Mike's got it. You have that video queued up.
Yeah, do you want the run or do you want the fire? I can bring either one of them up here.
Well, let's do the run. Is the fire on this run here? This looks like did Dawn Schaefer post this up?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Preston's run from Saturday night, Hammond, Louisiana.
See it spraying right there. I couldn't see that. I did not see that whatsoever. And to tell you if I did see that in that moment, to tell you if I would have lifted, I probably wouldn't have. Everything sounded good. Everything looked good. I didn't have any red alarms on my dash. We have alarms on this truck. So I probably wouldn't have lifted, going back to it. But, we dropped a valve last class in Georgia. And before the truck was even done rolling, it was automatically turned off. I mean, I already hit the ignition switch.
Did this scare the daylights out of Haley?
Haley knew I was going to get out. She was, I think the kids were more concerned about the truck. Little Presley, her poor, my daddy worked so hard on that truck, and this has become their hobby as much as it become mine. And, it could have been a lot worse. Another 30 seconds, you see the main feed line right here on the injection pumps burnt. All these return lines on the injection pump here is burnt. Of course, the air filter's gone. There's some other stuff the majority of, you can see this right here also on the blow-by hoses there. Could have been much, much worse. And y'all know how picky I am. You see all the aluminum's just tarnished. So everything's got to come back off and be polished out. No big deal. Nobody, thank God, got hurt. The body really took the extent of the damage. The grill is gone. The core support's got to be replaced. The headlights, the hood, the fenders, all that's got to be repainted in there. And you can see how clean the inside of this cab is. Of course, it's dirty, but you can see how clean and it's just not cut up and thrown together. So we'll get it back together. It's going to take some time, and we got 4 or 5 weeks, and we're going to pull here in Texas again, make some test hooks with the new super stock over there. And we'll be back going. But before this truck ever hits the track again, it will have covers on them lines.
It's interesting. There were a lot of, I noticed, I just kind of perused your Facebook page a little bit today, and there were a lot of comments and people who had beliefs and thoughts, and it almost looks like any of those, and I don't want to call any more light to them maybe than you or anyone else does, but just by watching that video, which I watched for the first time right here on the show, it looks like all of their suggestions, I'll put that nicely, were all utilized and all there. So it looks like you had the onboard fire suppression, you had the onboard, extinguisher right there. So I think it was all taken care of.
Yes, there's a lot of comments on there about the response to the fire extinguishers they had, which is to be talked about. I mean, thank God they were there. They did help put the fire out. Thank God I had my fire extinguisher here and the fire suppression. The fire extinguisher I did have here was a 2-pound, I believe, and then the one up in the valley of the truck was by the firewall. It's a 5-pound up there. So there was a lot of fire suppression that went out on this truck.
What kind of extinguisher was that you put it out with?
It was called a Safety. It was a company from Belgium. I don't know the chemical in it per se. I did a little bit of research on them, found a lot of good reviews. What it was also kind of cool about it, you could get it in like a whiskey wrap or polished chrome or copper, or it looked like a whiskey bottle. So, me, I'm always trying to do something different on my trucks and throw people off. So the whiskey put it out. Whiskey did a good job. I was actually shocked myself when I squeezed the trigger. It just, there was a lot of fire in that hood. You couldn't see the amount of fire that was in that hood. And with the onboard system being back kind of behind the cowl, right there at where the firewall would be on the OEM firewall, I probably need to put some more in there because it probably just didn't make it that far to the front of the engine. The whole back of the engine and really the top of the engine was out other than the air filter. Whenever I lifted the cab, a lot of people say, well, why did it take you so long to lift the cab? Well, if I lifted the cab and set the fire out, the deal off, then what the good with that would have done with the cab up in the air and fire extinguisher going off up there. So I had to give it a minute to work. And on top of that, I did start come up with the cab and realized I had my power off and had to pull this back out in order to get power and turn the pump back on. So, whenever you mount these fire extinguishers, you don't think about, hey, I'm going to have my helmet on, I'm going to have my sock on, I'm going to have my gloves on, pulling this stuff out, and I even went back the other day and looked at, hey, where else would I mount it? I don't have the fire extinguisher in here now, but here's the mount there, billet mount, really nice mount that we got off from a marine company over in California. But even if we put it, I'm right-handed, and there's really nowhere a better place to put it on this platform. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to do a little bit more research before I buy another fire extinguisher for the body. And by no means am I going to put a 30-pound fire extinguisher in there, But we might go 5, that's a 5 there. We might go 10 and add some more nozzles up front. But you definitely won't see another fire on this truck like that.
Well, thank goodness you had the onboard that you used. It seemed like that's the one that put it out because the ones they were using, they weren't having much luck getting that fire suppressed there. So.
No, and we're going to talk about that in the future. I'm waiting on phone calls and nothing against them. We just want to make sure we're better prepared next time.
I'm glad you didn't get hurt, and glad the truck didn't have a full meltdown on it, and so you can still fix it and everything and get it back on the track. So, man,
we changed that line.
Fire's always scary.
We changed that line in the trailer, and we drove it out of the trailer. It drove itself into the shop.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I mean, despite the what burn on it, if we wanted to go pull this weekend, we could.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Preston, we're looking forward to seeing both trucks this summer. I know a lot of the fans out there are chomping at the bit to see this class. So thanks for taking the time tonight. I know we ran a little bit long, but can't wait to see the trucks this summer. People get to see them up close and see just how nice they really are. I know your stuff's always polished, and they're show trucks as much as they are pulling trucks.
They are. They're very nice. 90% of the work is done by me and Jeremy here, with a few others as well, just Chad Perkins and his team. But I enjoy working on them as much as I do driving them.
Well, we appreciate you, man. I'm glad you're okay. And looking forward to seeing you. I guess it'll be Evansville, Indiana.
Evansville, I can't get here fast enough.
Well, you got some polishing and some things to fix. So, so get on that, get some sleep, and spend some time with the family. And we'll see you in Evansville.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks, Preston. Appreciate it.
Good luck this year.
Thank you.
So, very cool. He's a stickler on those trucks. I know that I've seen some of the pictures he sent me, and just beautiful. I mean, some of them, it's like, man, I'd be afraid to get that thing out in the dust and dirt.
Yeah, the quiet, highlight of that interview, and he did a nice job with this, was grabbing his phone and just kind of walking around and giving us a shop tour and looking at some of those vehicles. But no, I enjoyed that, and I know our fans did too. But to listen to talking about the data and talking about the different challenges, and he seems like he's a perfectionist when it comes to his equipment. So no doubt about it, he's going to have that set up to where it's even safer, but also it's going to be fun to see how those trucks compete in that Optimus Prime truck competes in 3 different classes. Ron, it's been a long time. The Rolodex in my head started going off. The last time we saw any pulling vehicle competing in 3 different classes, you'd have to go back to the days of the modifieds. Someone on here called him the Tim Engler of diesel trucks, or even, the 7, 9, and 12 super stocks back in the day. I don't know that you can even run points. I know I was told one time that NTPA put in a rule that basically said you can only run 2 at a time. Now, obviously, they don't have 3-0 in Grand National, and he says he's not chasing points, but it's been a long time since someone has taken 1 vehicle and ran 3 classes. So that's
it would be tough with our schedule this summer to run. We don't have a pro stock division. We have a limited pro and super. I kind of call it super pro. It's kind of a combination of both. But sometimes, one's pulling here and one's pulling there. So it makes it kind of tough to, like you said, you can't be in 2 places at once with 2 trucks. So looking forward to that class. I've become a fan of that class.
And going the other direction too, the one that I've come around to also, we didn't talk about much tonight, is the 2.6 trucks. The not the limited pro stock, but the pro street diesel trucks will put on a stronger show than I think a lot of people give them credit for. I saw that down in Georgia. I've seen it. You've seen them over there. Where is it? Washington, or one of those eastern pools you go to with the Outlaws. And they seem like they come out of the woodwork for that thing, coming out of Kentucky and everywhere else. So I look forward to watching the diesel truck classes for the Outlaws on both sides of the ruler growing this year.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome. Yeah, the 2.6 trucks, we've got a good schedule for them this year. They're going to have a points series, and a lot of those guys are ready to rock and roll. As a matter of fact, I think one of them messaged me here just a few moments ago while we were on the show. So probably wanting an updated schedule, but looking forward to it this summer. Diesel pickup fans have something to look forward to with the Outlaws this summer. So just want to say thanks to all of our guests. Mike, we've run long again. Imagine that. When we get together, we run long.
That's what happens. I say it's funny how, we don't talk pulling for a couple of days and we got to do it. It was a good show, though. Big shout out Tim Meyer. What a great sponsor out there. What a great partner. And Preston Collins, who just, embodies that idea of perfectionism that we love to see in pulling and pushing the envelope. So hard not to go long when you're having fun with stuff like that.
Yep. Big thanks to Preston out there, Preston Collins, and then, like you said, Tim Meyer with Sullivan Big Iron Auctions. Thank you to all the fans out there for watching. I know everybody stuck with us through the show, even though we went long. Thanks to our guests, Tim and Preston. And Mike, thanks to you, buddy. And we're going to be talking again here real soon. We got to do our get-together and distribute our trailers here pretty soon with all of our new flags. And
I've been thinking about it, and that's always that's a work-filled weekend, but it's a fun weekend because it means that we're getting closer. And weather's getting good, and we're both getting the pulling fever. But Ron, keep up the great work that you're doing. I thought you guys did a great job down there working with announcers you don't always work with. NTPA's obviously got great people. Full Pull's got great people, and it was fun just to sit at home and watch some of my friends go down there and see them on TV and go pulling. So keep up the great work with everything you're doing too. Going pulling in Florida while I'm up here grading papers.
You know what? Somebody had to do it, Mike. I figured I would do it for you. So no worries. I'll do it for you anytime,
wonderful.
buddy. So
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And thanks, Mike. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central for Outlaw Live.